Unboxing the Foothill Fab Type 1 cooler kit. This mounts onto the torsion housing right here. Really cool dimple dyed box. And they're using a Tetrab cooler. Sousa. It's the brand right there. Very efficient coolers. They're small and compact, but really do a nice job. They give you an F2 sticker, the F2 Performance Supply. That's the brand all their products come under from Foothill Fab. You get the T-bar clamps that mount it to the torsion housing. They supply us with rubber isolators that go onto the feet right there. This keeps the vibration from traveling through the torsion housing into the car. On this side we get -8 adapters. We get a thermo switch adapter here, -8 as well. And for our particular case, we ordered a 180-degree thermostat switch. For this particular application, we're going to be using the -8 Pro Banjo fitting. There's your part number right there, the part we're about to mess with. And there's like a little cutaway view of it. There it is in reality. They are not cheap, be prepared. But what this does is this allows us to get a really tight 90 out of it and go upwards. So that's the fitting there. It's a direct application to the cooler. Bolts in right there. I suggest when you're doing it, make sure you're backing that. I'm a big fan of Nip-X pliers. These work excellent. You can get a good bite on that and still be able to turn that fitting on. You don't want just to crank on this side of it and have it damage the cooler on this end of it. So make sure anytime you're applying the fittings to the Tetrab cooler that you are backing it. Pro Series, once they're installed, you can still change the direction of them. Really nice. So if you needed to exit to the side, you look to the side. And this is already tight. So we're going to use a little bit of denatured alcohol. These pads right here, they're to stop the vibration of the fan going through the chassis. So we make sure that it's nice and clean. Use a little bit of denatured alcohol. You can use rubbing alcohol. You can use glass cleaner. You can use whatever you want. So just like I do any sticker, I'm putting about halfway back. I can line it up where the pad still is. And stick that side. Pull this sucker back. Now our vibration pads are installed. She's ready to be fit into the vehicle. Something that's very important is to cap off anything as you're working on it, because you may bump this into something, and the last thing you want to introduce is dirt and debris into your oil system. So we make sure that this is completely capped off. So as we're trying to install it, if this bumps up against a brake line and like that, nothing's falling in there, because remember, this is after the filter. Anything that makes it into this cooler is making it into the engine. We want to make sure that it is all clean, fresh oil that makes it in there. So this is where we're going to install the cooler. It mounts onto your torsion housing here via those T-clamps and the housing that Foothill makes, that dimple dyed part. So our T-clamps use a 11 millimeter, and we're going to put these onto the torsion housing ahead of time. To start with, we're going to take our 11 millimeter, it's a nylock, and just get it broken free. Something you want to take into consideration when you're installing it. You want to be able to access that once it's been installed. So you're taking it apart like that, and you have to loop it around your torsion housing. So I prefer that they are going to either be forward or backwards. When I'm tightening it, I'm going to go for backwards. Alright, so this is a really simple procedure. You're basically putting it in place, and then you're sliding your T-clamps over the housing. And that's about as complicated as that install gets. Like I said, really, really easy kit to install. So we'll just get the wrench over here and tighten those up. So there's the clamps, both turn in the same direction. Looks real nice. Fits with that old speed Type 1 mid mount right there. No interference issues there at all, which is awesome. So that cooler is actually mounted in place now. Very simple, really nice setup. So now we're going to run some oil lines to it and get it wired up. We've done a fairly simple wiring. We have a relay feeding power to the cooler, and that is coming in off of this wire here. Okay, we're using our thermo switch as the ground here. So it will finish the circuit or complete the circuit once this reaches 180 degrees and actually grounds it to chassis. Then the fan will come back to the drawing board to explain the oil lines themselves. This is your oil pump. This is the out, and that says pump. So out of the oil pump, if you're a full float case, obviously, out of the oil pump, you'll be going to the in of the filter. From the out of the filter, you're going to be going to the hot side of the cooler. The cold side of the cooler, the outlet of the cooler, will be returning back into the case. So there's a basic diagram of how I set up my oil systems. I know some people prefer to put the cooler before the filter. My train of thought in that is filter the oil first before it goes into the cooler to hopefully save your cooler if there is a problem, because like the one we're installing, that's a $600 cooler. People don't want to replace those every time they have a problem with their motor. So that's my theory on that. I know other people differ, do it how you'd like, but this is a basic diagram of how I normally do it. All right, so the motor is installed and we have run our lines. And you can see there, I've got them secured in location so they cannot move. You got a spinning tire here, you got articulating suspension. You need to make sure you know where your lines are going to be at all times. Okay, we do a couple of these little separators here, and that's just so the hoses aren't constantly touching each other to transfer the heat back over into the cold side. I've got protective wrap on my oil lines here that are above the exhaust. And even though like you physically can't even pull them into it if you wanted to, because of the way I have them secured in there, it's good peace of mind to know that they're protected. If everything failed and this was resting directly onto the exhaust, like that, then this can withstand 2,500 degrees. So it would make it past that. We've got our oil lines connected here. As per my diagram, that is the out, and that is the return going back into the case or cold side. So after I've put my oil lines on, I remove the out of the filter, and I have a little hand pump, and I actually pump fill all my oil lines in the cooler. So this is pre-filling the system so we don't have any air pockets in it when we actually go to fire the sucker up.
And there we have it, the installation of the F2 Performance Supply torsion mounted cooler. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, and share it with some friends if you get a chance. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, thank you.